Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Doomed Planet podcast. This is episode 127, The Summer of Death 2025. I am your host, Alex R. Mayer. For the first time here, I'm going to use my full name. Nothing left to lose at this point. People need to have some courage, and anyone with half a brain can figure out who does this podcast anyway. I forgot to record any podcast episodes this summer. Now we're coming to the end of September, so we're going to have a burst of creativity here. This episode, we're just going to go through and recap some of the highlights or lowlights, as it may, happening, from the perspective of Seattle, a very wealthy city in a troubled and dying empire. And of course, this podcast is Obituaries for the Damned. That is our tagline. Some people died this summer. Loretta Swit played Hot Lips on the popular American television situation comedy MASH, which was about a medical unit during the Korean War. And kind of a pleasant psyop, apolitical distraction. The show came out during the end of the Vietnam War era, and there was supposedly some undercurrent of war is bad, and look at these medical professionals just trying to help, and people might not know that the United States murdered at least 25% of the population of Korea during the Korean War. Cory Doctorow posted something about Pike's Place Gum Wall. This is a Seattle tourist attraction where people stick their used gum on a wall in an alley next to the Pike Place Market. This is one of those misnomers. It's not Pike's Place. It is the Pike Place Market. Cory does good work, so we'll give them a free pass. Kshama Sawant is running to replace Democrat Adam Smith, who has represented the 9th Congressional District in Washington here since 1997, 28 years. Maybe it's time for some new blood. And I'm not saying he should get shot in the neck. That's not what I mean by new blood. That's just a tired catchphrase. Our healthcare system is still homicidal, a homicidal for-profit scam. New York Times, the Der Stürmer of American newspapers, wrote a praiseworthy piece about William F. Buckley. Buckley once wrote an opinion piece for the Times calling for men with AIDS to be tattooed on the buttocks to prevent the victimization of other homosexuals. Sociopathic psycho and convicted criminal Kevin Dahlgren is still publishing poverty porn on TikTok. He's filming people nodding off from fentanyl. Trump took over L.A. with some of his secret police. Something charming did happen. Rich Marriott was reporting for Seattle's King 5 News when a seagull appeared in front of the weather cam. Other than that, it was a grim summer. Beautiful in Seattle if you can get here in the summer and ignore all the problems. Of course, it's easy if you're wealthy to just kind of be in your own bubble and ignore all of these crises that are happening. There was a protest at the federal building on June 10th. And people use these e-bikes that you can rent to make barricades. So finally, a great thing about these protests these days, people realize that the hardware our tech overlords have forced upon us can be repurposed into something useful. The corporate bikes are useful. Also, if civilization collapses and people run out of their psych meds, they can bust open these e-bikes and lick the lithium batteries. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, but that's all roads seem to be leading to that. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOCIA, was taken down by Kshama Sawant, who says her take on these ICE agents is appalling and dishonest because the Democratic Party did the same damn thing. Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys has gone to a better place. He died on, June 10th? Troubled genius. Like any great artist, any good artist is not going to be normal. Someone posted on Twitter, the 27 Club is full of midwit losers like Jim Morrison. Sly Stone and Brian Wilson both just died at the age of 82. I remember my Jim Morrison phase in 7th grade, and now you look back at how ridiculous he is. The band had a unique sound with that Ray Manzarek's organ and whatnot, and the deft guitar pickings of Robbie Krieger, but now it's just silly. A Florida sheriff issues a warning to violent protesters saying they will kill them on sight. We will kill you. Graveyard dead. We're not going to play. According to Florida's Voice, a press conference there. Bezos got married and there were protests in Venice. The Needling posted that we can no longer afford to consider all things, said NPR host Ailsa Chang. NPR is facing Trump cuts. It's a brilliant joke on many levels because NPR charges a fortune to local affiliates like Seattle's KUOW for their syndicated programs when local journalists could fill that gap for a fraction of the cost. You'd be employing local journalists, and then people driving in their cars would not have to listen to dumbass shows like Wait, Don't Tell Me, where all too clever neoliberal people laugh at their own jokes about current events. NPR is broken, so. This politician assassinated by a guy dressed with a mask. It's too gruesome to even get into. TMZ reports that Giselle Bündchen went paddleboarding in a tight white swimsuit. Do we really give a crap about a wealthy, relatively elderly woman's elite exercise routine? I guess, we need light moments in the media that are not about death and genocide, I guess. The Blue Angels roared into town and that's okay. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but as more than 3 decades living in Seattle, I've been stuck in town to endure their noise every year. Taco Time Mexi Fries, it's a local chain, are just tater tots. And we welcomed Din Tai Fung to the Seattle Restaurant Wage and Tip Theft Hall of Fame. That seems like the business plan of every restaurant. Mamdani is kicking ass. UAW President Fain is proud to endorse Mamdani. He's not owned by Wall Street. He's fighting for $30 an hour, free transit, housing for all, and real democracy. There's been some chit-chat on Twitter about Mamdani is going to sell out like AOCIA, but one can only hope that he sticks to his guns. The World Cup 2026. 1 year to go, says Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell. We pointed out 1 year to go until homeless people are rounded up and deported from Seattle, just like when Bill Clinton came to speak at the WTO in 1999. Let's see, June 21st, as the USA begins bombing Iran, billionaire Jeff Bezos is set to marry his surgically enhanced girlfriend, Laura Sanchez, in a ceremony featuring helicopters, yachts, celebrities, and mounds of pure, uncut Peruvian cocaine. Not sure that last part turned out to be true. That's the last podcast episode we did, the Bezos-Sanchez wedding catastrophe, where I talked about the scenario, which ended up not happening, unfortunately, where Jeff is on the boat and their helicopter beheads him, and Lauren, his new wife, tries to run for him and knocks his head into the ocean, and then it bobs around, and then a shark comes and grabs his head and crunches down on it with a hideous crunch. Stock market manipulation by Trump. He's suddenly not at war with Iran. Surveillance pricing is now a thing. So there's a digital price tag that changes depending on who's looking at it. And they use, facial recognition, whatever, all this biometric fuckery to change the price right there for you based on your income and your mood and God knows what else. TMZ presents Luigi Mangione, The Mind of a Killer. Best case scenario is that Luigi is acquitted. I can see that happening. And then he sues TMZ and Fox, the parent company, out of existence for defamation. Andrea Suarez of the right-wing hate group We Heart Seattle got in Alicia Ramirez's face with her camera, ambushed them when they were walking downtown, and asked her, Alicia, what do you think about all this crime? Profit margins at grocery stores are based on the fact that there's a steady stream of customers who need food to survive. All this talk about, prices are so high because grocery chains or grocery monopolies need to make a profit and their margins are so small is hog shit. People need to buy milk and bread every week, but they're not buying a fucking car at all if they live in New York City, or if they do, can afford a car only every few years. Profit margins are higher for cars. Trailblazer, visionary, barrier shatterer, convention defier, path forger. That would be Mad About Melinda on the cover of Seattle Business Magazine. So a reminder, Melinda French Gates was a mid-level Microsoft employee who married her billionaire boss. There was no visioning or trailblazing or shattering or convention defying. And Kenji Lopez Alt, man of mystery, Seattle food influencer. He did this whole series on social media about going to every teriyaki joint in Seattle. Well, it turns out that was just a stunt because his teriyaki crusade was tied to a business deal doing teriyaki consulting for T-Mobile Park, something he did not disclose. A reminder, Chop Mart, former sponsor of Doom Planet podcast is America's Guillotine Superstore. So after over 5 years, Doom Planet has advertising now through our host company, Libsyn. And I actually got a notification that we earned 70 cents. So, yeah, Alex R. Mayer, sellout, doing it all for the money as usual. Bezos and Sanchez married on June 27th. And no, he was not beheaded. I can't emphasize that enough. The Needling, our favorite website, says Bezos honors Amazon workers by toasting with employee pee bottle. Glug, glug, slurp. Here's just a picture, a close-up of Chelsea Clinton's face. It's repulsive. Iggy Pop is bald. I'd like to keep mentioning that on this podcast. He does look like an 80-year-old man with his shirt off, but the thing, I guess, like, ooh, he's got rock star hair. No, that is an elaborate hairpiece. Mamdani, Mamdani. Zoran Mamdani says, I don't think we should have billionaires. I agree. I think there should be 100% tax after you have a certain amount of money. Maybe $1,000 million would be that certain amount. Mamdani says, a society that produces billionaires while millions go hungry isn't successful. It's broken. I don't think we should have billionaires. Full stop. On July 4th, thousands of people descend on the Long Beach Peninsula on the Washington state coast. Pickup trucks driving on the beach carrying MAGA, throwing cigarette butts and empty cans of Bud Light out the window. The locals there are impoverished white people who hate the visitors. There are Indian casinos around, but again, that is also a scam where a handful of people rake in all the money and the rest of the people on the res continue to live in abject poverty. There are no good restaurants there. The only other food is from the gas station. Paramount agrees to pay Trump July 1st, 2025, $16 million to settle a defamation suit with 60 Minutes. That is just a bribe. Again, this summer, the corporate media has failed us even more than was possible. The whole scheme is, a setup to begin with. Mamdani, his opponents said his positions on Israel would sink him, but no, it's the opposite. Not only that, but a majority of Jewish voters in New York City like him. Bob Villain, never would have heard of this guy except he chanted death to the IDF, death to the IDF during a concert. Now people are saying he's canceled. Concert in Paris is canceled. His career is over. Sorry, Zionists. We had no idea who this guy was. Now millions of people know of him and support him. And that little slogan, death to the IDF, is gone viral and will never go away. Sawant mentions that the Democratic Party is a party of the capitalist class. People haven't realized that yet. I am sorry. Big hubbub over across the pond as Oasis, the Britpop band, had a series of sold-out concerts in the largest venues, singing the same old songs. This is 30 years ago that they were popular. So now all these, elderly people are going, oh, look at these geezers playing their greatest hits. I don't know. I mean, I love them back in the day, but it's like, You're really going to pay a fortune to see a band that was popular 30 years ago? Caitlin Johnstone, one of our favorite political writers, says that the empire has accidentally caused the rebirth of real counterculture in the West. I think she's speaking of Bob Villain. Fireworks are always obscured by clouds in Seattle on July 4th, and that happened again. And walking around near Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell's multi-million-dollar lakefront estate in the Seward Park neighborhood, and we see on July 5th that magnolias are blooming. His magnolia tree is blooming. Remember when Barack Obama said elections have consequences? Well, he was right, said Chuck on Twitter. The Democratic Party's decision to double down on arming and funding genocide cost them the 2024 election and brought us Trump, hands down. I mean, no one more than Obama brought us Trump twice. He not only abandoned his progressive platform the day he was elected, and the next day bailed out Wall Street at the expense of the rest of us, but he was instrumental in rat-fucking Bernie out of the primaries twice. First by installing Hillary Clinton, that was a disaster, and second by supporting Kamala Harris. Really repulsive thing happened. Chef Jose Andres of the World Central Kitchen went to get a medal at the White House. No, that wasn't on July 5th, sorry. But Jose Andres received a medal from genocide Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton was there, and Bono. And so Joe Biden is the one that financed the genocide that allowed Israel to murder several of his employees. So GoFundMe set up for Texas flood victims. What a broken society where every disaster, every medical crisis, people have to beg for money because there's no social safety net or affordable health insurance. The Dalai Lama announced his 90th birthday. On this occasion, I understand that well-wishers and friends in many places, including Tibetan communities, are gathering for celebrations. I particularly appreciate the fact that many of you are using the occasion to... loser. He's just a simple Buddhist monk. No, the Dalai Lama was an American Empire anti-commie psyop from the day he was born. And he was on the CIA payroll for decades. He was getting $200,000 or $300,000 a year from the CIA. And that was his low price to sell out and to ruin his legacy. People don't know this, but Tibet, well, dumb people don't know this. Tibet was a feudalist slave state, basically, where 90% of the population lived in abject poverty until the Chinese intervention. Slash and Ozzy Osbourne backstage at Back to the Beginning, Black Sabbath's final show. And of course, that is sad. You can't not love Ozzy. Ozzy passed away this summer. Walter Isaacson, who wrote the hagiography of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, says that Elon Musk isn't motivated by money or power. He deeply cares about humanity. So that's someone whose reputation has been shattered, if there ever was a reputation. Denmark announced a proposed law to give citizens copyright to their faces, voices, and likenesses. We have on the 11th of July, Maria Cantwell, longtime Washington senator, meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, genocide, war criminal, and psychopath. Cantwell's been in office for almost a quarter century. Too bad we don't have term limits or someone courageous enough to primary her on the left the next time she is up. Senators serve 6 years. Not sure when her time is up. McMenamins joined the Seattle Restaurant Wage and Tip Theft Hall of Fame in July. You can tell a place is a bad place to work when they are constantly running help wanted ads on Craigslist. But that's the business plan of some of these places is exactly that. They don't want you working more than 6 months or so because then you're going to want a raise or benefits or something. United Health, alleged victim of Luigi Mangioni's alleged murder of their CEO, complains that shares have declined 40% over the past year. Negative publicity may adversely affect our stock price, damage our reputation, and expose us to unexpected or unwarranted regulatory scrutiny, United Health noted in its recent annual report. Michael Jordan's private jet appeared on social media. It has the Nike Air logo on the tail fin. Paid for by millions of shoe factory wage slaves. There's these big budget Hollywood movies about marketing. There's one about Flamin' Hot Cheetos and the guy that invented that, and there's one about the Michael Jordan shoe thing. Very little time in that movie is spent talking about the wage slaves. Shout outs to Coldplay for letting us know that you will be under constant surveillance with the threat of humiliation if you spend $500 for a ticket to see them perform. This was, of course, the two adulterous people that appeared on the this big screen at a Coldplay concert, and that ended in divorce. Someone, a Lego account posted beach finds, November 2023. It's a bunch of fucking plastic little shit, including Legos. Plastic is evil. Our use of plastic needs to be radically reimagined. Astronomer CEO Andy Byron and his HR chief, Kristen Cabot, making out at the Coldplay show. It's just the incredible arrogance and stupidity of these fucking dumbasses that run things. I mean, what did they think was going to happen? Max Blumenthal reports that AOCIA's career was launched by two Israeli venture capitalists, Joe Raby and Shani Yerushalmi of Gage Strategies. This origin story is left out of her bio, but it suggests an Obama-esque trajectory toward national power, as in very quickly, coming out of nowhere. As with Obama, the signs of sellout were always there. The Times of Israel reporting two Israeli startup entrepreneurs played roles in rise of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And of course, her big origin story is that she was a waitress or bartender. That is true. However, she had already gone to Boston University, which the tuition is $60,000 or $70,000 a year. It's a rich kid school. It's also a feeder school for the State Department. The Holocaust of Gaza is far more morally corrosive to our shared humanity than the Nazi Holocaust, says Nate on Twitter, because the perpetrators don't hide it and our governments openly support it. We have daily social media updates, and still it continues. This will scar all of us for generations. The number of images of babies that are shredded with their faces burned off. The one thing I keep going back to is that there's no blood when they show these corpses. Well, no, they've been blown apart and the blood leaves their body almost immediately. a right-wing chud posts that NPR was corporatized and conservatized. So it needs to be defunded. Okay, well, true. Many years back, NPR received a $100 million gift from Joan Kroc, widow of the founder of McDonald's. And the first thing they did was build an incredibly expensive headquarters in a toniest neighborhood in D.C. So, yeah, defunding NPR, I'm on the fence with that one. Maybe create something that is not NPR to replace NPR. I mean, NPR is just neoliberal establishment swill. I mean, the number of times I'd stop listening to it most of the time. The number of times per day that they announce what the stock market is doing. Like, no one gives a fuck. Very few people own stock, and it's irrelevant whether the Dow Jones up 30 today in mild trading. No one gives a fuck. Fuck you. Eric Adams looks like a frog. Call me a racist for saying that. Call me anti-Democrat party. He's a convicted criminal. Sarah Nelson, Seattle council member, alcoholic in recovery, sent a mailer out for the primary, which she lost. With Sarah, Seattle won't go back. And you just see, she claims that she's thick-skinned because of all the horrible attacks on her. She's thick-skinned because her face looks like leather. Seattle City Council member Sarah Nelson says tents down 33% citywide since she took office, which by any metric is a lie. LeBron James parties with Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos, and we write that that's a missed opportunity for a literal giant to punch a tiny billionaire in the face. Ozzy Osbourne passed away July 22nd. Poor Ozzy, someone wrote. No, he was not poor by any stretch of the imagination because he had a great manager, and he's charming and sort of talented. All praise for Ozzy. Washington Post says, as impossibly famous as he continued to become, his music remained more immense than his celebrity. Those accusing Ozzy of being a Zionist, please be aware that his brain stopped functioning long before October 7th. His wife Sharon is certainly a supporter of Israel and thus Zionism. So, yeah, Ozzy was blissfully unaware of the nuances of politics. And for those who don't remember, the entirety of schlock pop culture, rock music, superheroes, surfing, cheeseburgers, liberalism was created by and for baby boomers. It was fun, but get over it. David Lee Roth salutes Ozzy Osbourne. Again, these are the elderly men, grandfathers, out on stage performing their hits from 30 years ago or 40 years ago. David Lee Roth, like Iggy Pop, is also very bald with an impressive hairpiece. Caitlin Johnstone, I highly recommend you subscribe to her Substack or her Twitter. Says that the apartheid state of Israel has shown us that it should not be allowed to exist any longer. Western supremacism, Zionism, racism, and imperialism have shown us that these things must be eradicated from our world. None of those Nazi concepts are going to go down without a fight, unfortunately, and there's going to be depopulation of people on this planet as a result, unfortunately. Caitlin says, I'm sorry if this is anti-Semitic, but I think it's wrong to deliberately starve thousands of children to death. Collapse Talk, one of my favorite podcasts, although it's just some guy in Texas. But I got to tell you, Collapse Guy, a 5-hour podcast is too much. Shorten those episodes. He says liberals are just now speaking out against the Gaza genocide as the population enters the final stage of famine. They're like the neighbors who heard children being abused for years in the apartment next door, but only called the police when the crying stopped. That's grim, bro, but ultimately true. Again, apparently the new Superman movie has some anti-Zionist messaging, according to Ellie Valley, my favorite anti-Zionist Jewish cartoonist. Looks like I might be going to a movie theater for the first time since I saw that Star Wars sequel where Mark Hamill plays an elderly pedophile who lives on an island. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was released 6 years ago this summer. Not a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, but I love that movie. It's awesome. Some idiot posted that Americans know mental asylums were just giant labs used to torture and experiment on people. Very simplistic description of a system that, while deeply flawed, lobotomies were not a great thing, helped the mentally ill. A combination of Reagan and the wide acceptance of psych drugs killed the asylums. And now people who could have received help at these facilities are basically out on the street. Erudite political satirist of the early 60s, Tom Lehrer, passed away. Very old, so the older you get, the less people remember you. Great quote from Tom Lehrer: political satire became obsolete when Henry Kissinger was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Tom Lehrer also did a song about Werner von Braun, one of the thousands of Nazis brought over by the United States and assimilated into our Nazism 2.0, post-World War II America. World's most hated bands party like it's 1999. At the Summer of 99 and Beyond Festival, Creed, Nickelback, and other leading lights of post-grunge explored the nostalgic limits of rock's most reviled sound. Remember Bean Dad? This is a Seattle musician who got in trouble because he posted something mocking his daughter for not knowing how to use a can opener. Well, he was the king of the Seattle Seafair Parade, along with his daughter wearing a tiara. Wow, that's sick. New York Times talked about how some of these kids starving in Gaza had pre-existing health problems, as if that justifies starving them to death. That's some sick, psychopathic, murderous shit from the Der Stürmer of American media. There's an 8.7 magnitude quake off the west coast of the United States at the end of July. No tsunamis, though, which is good. A senior executive at Blackstone, completely evil corporate entity, was murdered. Warm, amazing light, inspiration. The Foo Fighters' new drummer is Ilan Rubin from Nine Inch Nails. You gotta give this up, people. Dave Grohl, you're not getting any younger. What I mean, I understand that's all you do. It's what you've always done, and it gives you a thrill to be a 60-year-old man performing in front of a bunch of 15-year-old boys. But go out on top, man. Maybe take some advice from your former bandmate, who did not have to debase himself by performing, in geezer fests like this. Maria Cantwell still have 5 more years as a senator. The Kneeling reports Senator Maria Cantwell wishes all the best for Palestinians she's approved funding to kill. Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. Not watching that. Brilliant movie, influential movie. None of these boomers need the money. Why are they doing this? It's going to be catastrophically bad. The reviews came out, and yes, it was catastrophically bad. There's a dumb map on Terrible Maps on Twitter. Yankee Guide to the Southern U.S. Not the South is West Virginia and Virginia. People haven't ever seen rednecks from Southern Ohio or Southern Pennsylvania, I guess. Dan Savage reports not the obituary I wanted to read today, August 3rd. Lonnie Anderson, star of WKRP in Cincinnati, passes away. Not the world's greatest actress, but married to Burt Reynolds. And, back in the 1970s, early 80s, when there were only 3 TV channels or 4, everyone watched that shit. Like, everyone. You talked about it the next day. Oh, WKRP, especially if the show was mildly good or funny like that show. It was pointed out that Good Space Guy, not on the ballot this time for the primary election. Apparently, he has been called back to his home planet of Zorkon. Unfortunately, Doom Planet has run 2 interviews with him, and we regret doing so because he is a loser. Katie Wilson defeats Seattle incumbent mayor Bruce Harrell in the Democratic primary. Hulk Hogan passed away. This guy was a piece of shit and a bad person. TMZ reported that a Hulk Hogan-esque cloud appeared in the sky outside of his funeral, stunning the attendees. Bruce Harrell threatens to move back to Bellevue if Katie Wilson wins this fall. Netanyahu says the New York Times should be sued. I'm looking into whether a country can sue the New York Times for defamation. So Hitler wants to sue Der Stürmer. Incredible. The New York Times has propped up that genocide from day one. Gone out of their way to do so. Or, we can say since 1948 have been supportive of that genocidal project. Jeff Bezos is backing lab-grown salmon. And NPR, KUOW, the local affiliate of NPR, did an unchallenging interview with a Franken salmon spokesperson. Again, we say community radio could replace KUOW and provide actual journalism at a fraction of their budget. Jonathan Rosenblum launched a new book, We're Coming for You and Your Rotten System, How Socialists Beat Amazon and Upended Big City Politics, referring to Kshama Sawant. King of the Hill is back, but guess what? It's on Hulu, so you have to pay to watch it. Katie Wilson, a great candidate for mayor, but why does every candidate in Seattle have to use an image of the Space Needle in their branding? The Space Needle is a privately owned corporation with a building on public land. Who is this ancient, elderly, white, bald eagle? Adam Smith, who says, Kshama Sawant, who campaigned against Kamala Harris in 2024, is now targeting me for Congress. She won't stop Trump's fascist takeover or fight for our community, but I will. Look at this guy. You need to retire, man, and go to an old folks' home. Michael Jordan bragging that he's in second place after fishing for a 71-pound white marlin. He might win $400,000. So he murdered a large sea creature. Of course, he's got to do something with his time and his money. The city council voted overwhelmingly to expand the city's real-time crime center surveillance. There's an op-ed in the New York Times, August 11th. Fire about Mamdani. Fires raged unattended, forcing hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers out of their homes. New York Times describing the 1970s. Federal agents taking over Washington, D.C. and harassing people smoking cigarettes on their steps. TMZ says Von Dutch trucker hats are back in style and on sale now. Von Dutch, real name Kenneth Robert Howard, a curmudgeon artist, also a neo-Nazi white supremacist. We talk about a Seattle Nazi who died. Charles Kraft was a fan of Von Dutch. That's an episode from several years ago. Nate Petrosky, homesteader in West Virginia on TikTok, really disappointed me this summer. He feeding rabbits now to his giant livestock guardian dog, and I guess that's fine. But I didn't want to see a graphic image of the rabbit corpse. We have several rabbits living at the Doom Planet podcast world headquarters out and back. Beyond Meat, fake burger corporation, posts recent media stories suggesting that Beyond Meat filed for bankruptcy are unequivocally false. If you look up their stock price, you see it's down 98% in the past 5 years. Someone posted that at least Bill Gates never had a messiah complex, referring to Trump. This person has no idea who the hell Bill Gates is. Incredible. Trump meets with Zelensky and some other leaders of the failed Western project. Wow, Europe is in trouble. I can't tell you what bad shape they are in. And, it's not something you're taught in school, but they're just vassal states that bow down to the United States, especially Germany. Catastrophically bad situation. Europe, might just return to being the backwater it was sometime after the fall of the Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire moved their headquarters to Constantinople / Istanbul. Twitter is broken. There's an ad for QFC, and it looks like 59 million people viewed that, which is, 20% of the population of the United States, if one is to believe those statistics. Here's the thing. Which person would you have hung out with in high school and college, J.D. Vance or Gavin Newsom, repulsive governor of California? J.D. Vance looks like he's a lovable nerd. Gavin Newsom is this, handsome, hollow-cheeked, preppy jerk Chad. Both of them are poisonous monsters. Eric Adams was giving out, or his people were giving out bribes, red envelopes full of cash in bags of Hers potato chips. We pointed out that Pennsylvania-made potato chips are a thing, and Hers is still a family-owned company in that state. In late August, I accidentally turned on KUOW, the NPR station in Seattle, to hear Seattle City Council member Sarah Nelson explain that she got sober after smashing her child's cell phone with a hammer. Oh, that's a good thing for your stump speech. Maybe you can smash that stump with a hammer. Or get drunk and do it. Break the chains of sobriety, Sarah, and get drunk and smash a whole bunch of phones with hammers. The Who is going on another farewell tour. I believe they play Seattle is late September or coming up here. Their first farewell tour was in 1982. Trump is renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War. Yeah, even a broken clock is right twice a day. That's what it is. Uber Eats is welcomed to the Seattle Restaurant Wage and Tip Theft Hall of Fame. Seattle Office of Labor Standards secures $15 million settlement against the predatory app-based company. Atul Gawande claims that RFK Jr. is a disturbed and unqualified man driven by crackpot theories. Fair enough there, Atul. And lots of other stuff happened this summer, but I don't like to run this podcast more than an hour. So we will end with, we'll say, Indian summer in September when Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated. I'm pretty media aware, and I like to follow right-wing developments, but mercifully, I was not that aware of Charlie Kirk, or he could have been any number of fascist, racist, right-wing suck-up people. I'd never really heard of him. So my first images of him, and the first thing I heard him say was that speech, and then watching that graphic close-up of getting shot in the neck, and then, his artery shattered, probably went through his spine. It's unfortunate that he probably died instantly without suffering, but very graphic, almost up there with all the shredded babies in Palestine. And of course, now tomorrow is his memorial service, and people are getting fired for criticizing him. And I mean, it's funny. Right-wing media people have endless resources and get money thrown at them through a spigot. Not true on the left. So good riddance to bad rubbish. Thanks for listening to episode 127 of the Doomed Planet podcast. This is your host, Alex R. Mayer. You can come and find me. Goodbye.
We must come together. Our responsibility is to de-escalate this environment, to reduce the level of chaos.
I said, baby, Daddy loves you so much. Don't you worry. He's on a work trip with Jesus.